producer in Studio A, Jamario Brooks. Jay Miles, assistant operations manager. Good promo there with some nice music as Jefferson County back in action this week. The Tigers played over in Texas this past weekend and a good showing for our local high school teams. So Jefferson County back in action. And you can join us Friday night at 6:45 with the pregame show. Of course, WMIS WTYJ 97.7 FM, 1240 AM, WMIS WTYJ in Natchez. They've been doing that thing for over 100 years down in Southwest Mississippi. They're joining us here on the Fred McNair Radio Show. We welcome one and all as the Braves got back in the win column. A big win, 45-7 over Mississippi College. Braves head football coach Fred McNair joining us. Coach, congratulations, and it was a good win.
Yes, it was, Charles. I think that the much needed, just for the players and their mindset right now, Charles. I think it was a great win. I told them after the game was over with, it was a good win because wins are hard to come by, Charles. So you got to take the win as they come. So I think they played a pretty fair ball game. A little bit more, we expect more. So we just got to get back to the drawing board and try to get the best out of the young men for this upcoming game for Saturday against McNair State.
Yeah, it's always the uncertainty. You're playing a team that this was their first game of the season. You hear that, number one, so they're fresh. We just came off the USM game. They run the triple option, a D2 team, all those little intangibles, those loose ends that you're wondering, can we tie the knot? And we're able to do that and get off to a fast start.
Offensively-wise, I thought that we came out and we received the kick at first. Charles was 3 and out. We had a couple of miscues there with Noah handling the football there and a couple of missed throws that we should have hit. But defensive-wise, it's hard to assimilate guys in triple option charge in the course of a week of practice. So we don't get a chance to see it full speed. That's something we don't do during the course of practice. We're not going to cut our own players the way the other teams do, but it's hard to assimilate the triple option in practice full speed to maximize everything we need to get out of it during the course of a week to see it full speed on Saturday. So I thought that what the defense did, they did a great job of containing the triple option this week, and they did a great job of pass defense as well. So third down conversion, I always talk about that. We just got to execute on third down and on offense, and we got to get off the field on third down on defense. So I thought we sustained some of the drives that we had going. Coming out the second half, I thought we could have played a little bit better than we did the first half.
There's a lot to unpack in this game. We'll hear from Nico Duffy, who had a terrific performance. 173 total yards, 138 on the ground, and 35 with the reception. So we'll be hearing from him coming up. We'll hear from Alcorn President Dr. Felicia M. Nave. She's talking about the job the football program is doing. She was on the field, made a big financial contribution. So we'll hear from her coming up. And we'll talk about McNeese as we play at our level, the FCS. For those who might not know, all teams in the SWAC are a member of the Football Championship Subdivision. FCS is what they call it. You have the FBS, and you have the FCS. Remember the FCS. And McNeese is an FCS program as well out of the Southland. So we'll be talking about McNeese, who lost to Oklahoma State, but they beat Southern 34-28. So we'll be talking all about that here. Busy Monday night here on the 73-degree rain-cooled evening, Coach. Got some rain. First time in, couple of weeks? Had some rain here this afternoon. Cool things down.
Well, that's good, too, Charles. I think that that is much needed as far as football is concerned. We practiced this morning. During the course of practice, we always ran the conditioning. And some of the guys was complaining about how hard the surface was because having rain and everything like that. But give a chance to get a little water this afternoon, and hopefully in the morning it'll be dry enough for us to get back on the gridiron tomorrow morning.
All right, so let's get into it. MC won the toss and deferred to the second half. So the Braves got the football at the 25-yard line, and you talked about it right off the bat, a bobbled snap, and Noah Johnson lost of 3. So a little bit of nerves there to start.
Well, I guess I've charged, and I think that what he should have did, I talked to him about it when he came off the field, what things that we don't do. But he bobbled the snap on the throw. Fumble, so we lost 3 yards there. So we just have to get in the groove, just coming out with a fast start, for real life.
So we did punt on 4th and 5, a McCullough 45-yard punt. Then MC went 3 and out as Hawthorne for 2 yards, Jordan Wright for 4 yards, and Hawthorne for 3. So it was 4th and 1 from their 34. So a 30-yard punt by McCarter, second Braves drive with 10:57 left. Braves got it going. Waller for 12 yards. Then Noah Johnson to Waller, 18 yards. And then we finished off the drive on a 3rd down and 11. Nico Duffy, a 29-yard run. Talk about that play to get the Braves on the board early.
Just basic inside run charge, and I think that what we did there, Nico did a great job of finding the creases, and of course the offensive line did a great job of blocking for him, and just say to beat him with speed, Charles. And Nico is a great addition to our program. He's a freshman, doing some great things. I saw it during the course of spring, during camp, the things that he could do with the football in his hand. So he's going to be a dynamic player for us.
So the Braves off to a 7-0 lead. The 7-play, 64-yard drive. Next MC drive with 8:39 left in the first quarter. The second play on the drive on a 2nd down and 4. Hawthorne, a loss of a yard, fumble recovered by Chris Monroe. Talk about the job he's done defensively.
Chris is a quiet guy, Charlie. He's even killed, and he tried to do everything the right way. It's kind of tough to get a laugh out of Chris. Well, he's just quiet, but he's coming along very well. I think Coach French is maximizing everything he got to get the best out of Chris Monroe on that defensive line.
So with that turnover, the Braves got it at the 28-yard line of the Choctaws, and then Bolton got into the act on a 1st and goal from the 2. So you've seen Waller, and now Bolton. Just talk about Bolton and working him into the fray here and in the backfield.
The biggest thing, we're just trying to find more depth for behind Waller there, Charles, and I think Bolton could be additional guy for that depth at running back. He just, last week against Southern, he fumbled during the course of the game, and so, just kind of if we just keep him to hold to the football, I think he'll be a great running back for us.
So it was 14-0 at that point. Mississippi College, it was a personal foul on the Choctaws on their 3rd drive as they started at their 25-yard line after a 36-yard punt. The Braves got it at their own 45-yard line. We talked about penalties. We got it at our own 45 with 3.5 left in the first quarter, and then we were called for a hold, and we were pushed behind the chains.
Yeah, there's always concern about Charles. We always try to coach it up during the course of practice with the guys inside on the interior line, hand placement. Coach Radden always talked about hand placement with these guys and where to put them. Got to be inside. So we're still a work in progress there. Just the guys. They playing hard, Charles. I'm not going to stop from playing hard, but you just got to know when not to hold. So you just got to get a grip on that, and I think we'll be okay.
It was 1st and 20, then 2nd and 15, and then on the 1st and 10 from the Choctaws 45. Duffy's 45-yard run, and when he had these big runs, he wasn't touched. Great job by the offensive line.
Yeah, they've been doing a great job, Charles. Through the course of the week, after the Southern game, we kind of revamped and got the guys to working together. They have to work together and open up the holes for these running backs. And like I said, Nico Duffy's untouched again, and was able to take the ball down to the end zone.
So it was 21-0 at that point, and that was the score at the end of the first quarter. Fred McNair, you had 162 yards to 58. So you almost tripled 162 yards in the first quarter. That's Braves football, isn't it?
Yeah, that's where we're going to pound it, Charles. We just got to get back to the basics, continue doing what we're doing up front, open the holes up for the running back. So I think Coach Radden is really beating up that offensive line against that 5-man sled over that we got. And so it kind of helps out with the pad level. What you need to do is stay low, come off the ball. So I think we're doing a great job of doing that.
One of the things about Noah Johnson and running this offense, he's getting good production from the running game, as we've seen through the first couple of games. But then he's overthrown a lot of guys. Is it footwork, mechanics, technique? What's going on there in the first couple of games?
Yeah, we talked about that earlier this afternoon, Charles. Coach White and Coach Radden and Coach Phillip. We just sit down and just talk about what we need to do to kind of settle him down a little bit to get his feet work going back. And most of the time, when the ball is high, he overstride, which he did on the couple throws that he overthrow the guys. And just got to get his feet settled in. And hopefully, we work toward that this week and kind of get him settled down and get him going.
I've been watching a lot of football, of course. When you're antsy in the pocket, does that cause some of the overthrows sometimes?
Yeah, of course it do. You almost seem like you don't trust the line or what they're doing most of the time when you're like that. But he had great protection, so no reason for him to rush the throw. just settle in and just make the throw. Follow through as he was coached. You know, Coach White has done a great job with those quarterbacks of grooming them and getting them to play up to their ability. You know, so we're just looking more for Noah from that aspect of the game, the passing game. So we'll get better.
All right, it's 14 minutes after the hour. Of course, we wouldn't have a McNair show at this point without talking to Marquise, who joins us on the telephone. Good evening, Marquise. How are you? Doing pretty good.
Marquise, I'm doing great, man. Yeah, played a pretty fair ball game, Marquise. We just got to get better on some of the things that we didn't do as well. You know, just watching film on Sunday morning, you know, kind of catch your eye on some of the things that we didn't do well. What would happen if we did them all great things on the field, you know, in the course of a game. All right, then, Marquise, man, you will, man. Just enjoy yourself, enjoy the game, man, and hope we get a chance to see you. That's always good, Marquise, to put a face with a name. You know, it's always good, man, and hopefully we'll be seeing you soon.
All right, thank you very much, Marquise. Marquise has actually been here in the studio. He came to a couple of games, and I got a chance to meet him for the first time. Put the face with the voice.
That's right.
We'll take a time out here. We'll look at the second quarter. Give us a call, 601-877-6595. We appreciate Marquise calling in. You can tweet a question, Tall Man Radio. You can text a question anytime, 601-348-7254, 601-348-7254. And of course, I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook, Charles Edmond. I'm on Twitter, Tall Man Radio. A lot of ways you can catch up with me. We'll take a break. We'll look at the second quarter. We'll hear from Alcorn President Dr. Felicia M. Nave coming up. We'll also hear from Duffy. Had a big game. We'll get his thoughts coming up here on the Fred McNair Radio Show. And, of course, a McNeese preview, a team that lost Oklahoma State. They played up but beat Southern 34-28 in their opening game a couple weeks ago. We'll take a break. We'll be right back in 60 seconds. Monday night, 17 minutes after 6 o'clock. The Braves will play in Lake Charles Saturday night at 6. Dress comfortably. Temperature 94 expected, the high temperature in Lake Charles on Saturday. So by the time kickoff rolls around, you know how it is. It was like it was this past Saturday. It was a good crowd, by the way. Good job by the Sounds of Dynamite and everybody involved as the Braves got the win over Mississippi College. All right, Coach McNair, piggybacking off of what we talked about with Noah in throwing the football and trying to set his feet and get those mechanics down, DQ sends in a text saying it seems like Noah is not running as much this year. Is this a part of the new game plan to focus on feeding the backs more, or is it just an in-game feel by Noah?
Well, just basically what we look at the coaching staff, offensive coach staff, game plan wise, what we see our opposition doing as far as the defense is concerned. So, you know, this is non-conference play. So, I'm not going to do anything in the harm thing right now to hurt Noah in the upcoming conference season when we play in that conference. So, we have to protect as much as we can right now, Charles, because when you get into conference, you don't want to hold anything back of that nature. So, right now, as far as the game plan, what we see that other teams doing, that's what depends on how well what we're going to do with Noah.
Of course, Noah, we know he's got the longest run in school history from scrimmage, 91 yards. And what we saw with Jarwin Russell not sliding and getting down, we'll talk about that. And then, of course, looked at the NFL, Cam Newton. I mean, one of his big issues is he wants to mix it up in there, and he's been popped a few times. So I guess as a quarterback, you have to be productive, but you have to be smart as well.
Of course, Charles. You know, and we talk to Jarwin all the time about getting rid of the football when in practice we go through team period and he's standing like he's invisible, you know. So that's one of the things that Coach Pat and myself, we talked to him about, you know. And then in the course of the game, you know, you don't want to take a shot like that coming from a linebacker. So he got right pretty good at Charles, you know, for 1 minute. Just thinking he was out, but kind of gathered himself, you know, he laid there and got up. So I was proud to see him getting up because that hit was a brutal hit. And you know, I think he said more took the impact on his shoulder than his head. So he's good. He practiced this morning. No concussion symptoms. So practice this morning, so he's standing up right now, Charles. So we're good.
We'll talk a little bit about that as we roll along. Let's look at the second quarter here as the Braves got on the board in the second quarter. First drive of the second quarter started at their 25 with 10:44 left. Went right down the field, 12 plays, 75 yards, and Waller's 22-yard run. What we talked about Mississippi College offensively with the triple option, and we held them to like 115 yards. They have more passing yards than rushing yards. That's not what they do, but that's the way the game turned out. Even though we were able to score a bunch of points, get a bunch of rushing yards, what was the concern going in about MC's defense?
Well, the biggest thing is we know they had some players up there, Charles, and we know we had to be able to block well and protect well going into the game. You know, we don't underestimate any of our opponents, so we took it to the heart to where these guys are going to play us hard, and they did. I thought that they had some guys that they looked very well. I told Coach Thorne that they had some good-looking kids out there, you know. So they were able to get good recruits in at Mississippi College as well, Charles. So we know they was going to be physically tough, and they showed that. So we just had to make sure that we grind out enough to be effective on offense.
So it was 28-0 at that point, and that was the score at the half. Mississippi College coach in that second quarter actually won the time of possession, 9:42 to 5:18. That's their game, ground and pound. In a triple option offense, you want to get 3 yards on first down, maybe 3 and 4, 3 to 4 on second down, make it 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, and make the defense think a little bit. And that's where an offense like that can be dangerous. And they were able to get a little bit on first down.
Yeah, the biggest thing is, too, and Coach Thornton says it as well as anybody, you know, you're giving up too much on first down, you know. That's too much on first down. And triple option team, if you can just get them to get 1 yard or perhaps no yards, then put them in a throwing situation, you pretty much got their hands tied. So just giving up that many yards on first down create problems. Now they can come back and still run the ball, you know. So you want to force those kind of offense to throw the ball because that's something they're not used to doing.
Right.
So once they get into the throwing mode, you know, they're not comfortable throwing the football. So just not giving up as much as you want to on first down, the second down, kind of plays into their hand when you give up that many yards.
So it was 28-0 at halftime, and you talked with our Cedric Tillman on the sideline, and you weren't, even though we're up 28-0 and we were moving the ball up and down the field, Waller had some good runs and our defense was flying around. Your body language and your comments suggested that you weren't too pleased at halftime.
You know, Charles, as a coach, you always see things that need to be better, and always see things that can improve throughout the course of the ball game. And when you see that, of course, you kind of get attitude-ish, and then you're thinking, what can we do to get these guys going? And from a coach's standpoint, but you know, just the opportunities that we had during the course of the first half, you know, I'm looking for more points, I'm looking for more yardage, I'm looking for the defense to make that extra stop during the course of that ball game, or either knock down that long pass, or either stop that guy from that long run. When you see stuff like that, you can always say, well, we can improve, get better at that. So overall, the first half was pretty decent. Going into halftime with a lead like that, you don't want to get complacent, come out the second half and just feel like you got the game won. So you have to go in and just get these guys going again and come back out to play a totally different ball game second half.
You know, there's always this assumption when you're playing down that it should be 100-0. It should be just a lopsided, and we did win the game, and it was a big-time score. But there's this assumption that at halftime, at the end of the first quarter, it's 35-0. At halftime, it's 50-0 or something like that. I mean, we've seen these things get out. We've seen this happen, but sometimes it doesn't happen that way. I mean, it was 28-0, and you, to your point, in the second quarter, Mississippi College got to our 26-yard line. They were faced with a 4th and 1, and they were called for a false start. So it was 4th and 1, then it was 4th and 6, and we were able to get off the field. It was, I mean, if they didn't commit that false start, who knows what might have happened. It was 28-0 at that point, so that was a self-inflicted penalty on them. But they were able to get a few things done, and they had a couple of deep passes in the game, something that you wouldn't expect from a triple option team.
And those are things that we talk about, Charles. We talk about that can't happen. You you get a guy with a third and fourth and one, and self-inflicted by them. You know, they get a 4th and 6 now. With the long passes, you know, your bad eyes, and it's third down and forever, and you give up a long pass. You know, those are the kind of things that kind of a coach look at and say, we got to get better at that. We can't give up that. You know, you look at that, and then going into the second half, just say if they would have got that 4th and 1 and sustain that drive and go down and maybe field goal, get momentum. You know, and you got life. You know, and that's one thing that you know I talked about at halftime. You know, when they go out and finish the ball game. You know, didn't execute as well as I thought we would. We executed the second half, but you know, we strung it out. Missed the field goal there. Corey hit a field goal in the second half again. And those kind of things, you want to finish those drives. You want to be able to finish those drives, put a team away that way. Because during the course of a kick, anything can happen. But you know, I thought the defense, you know, they did what they could do at that point, Charles, and kept holding and holding. They was bending, but they didn't break. So just got to get better on all phases of it.
That was a huge part of the game, too, in that 4th and 1 from 4th and 6, because it was about a minute and a half left in the first half. They get the ball to begin the second half, and using an NBA analogy, that could be a 2-for-1. You get a score late, then you get the ball to begin the second half, and all of a sudden the momentum could shift. But they didn't pick up the first down, and we took a 28-0 lead at halftime. We'll take a break here. We'll be taking your calls, text, and tweets. And our number is 601-877-6595. We appreciate DQ on the text, and we appreciate Marquise calling in. We got some tweets coming in. We'll get to those as we roll along. In the second half, we had a lot of DNPs in the game. DNPs did not play, did not dress out. We'll talk about that, and we had some players go down as well. So we'll see how those are coming along here 5 days away from the McNeese game, Saturday at 6 o'clock. We'll take a break. We'll be right back after this. 1 minute time out here on the Fred McNair Radio Show. Office ticket vendor is Impact Tickets, and they offer fans secure online purchases, no additional fees, immediate processing, and tickets are available electronically on your mobile device. And I can tell you, folks, Impact Tickets is the way to go. You can print out your ticket just like you would getting on an airplane. You can print out your boarding pass now. You can print out your ticket. You can have the code on your phone. You can have all of that without having to go through the way it used to be. So Alcorn Impact Tickets is the perfect team for your ticket needs. You can go to alcorn.edu/tickets to get your tickets for the high school big game against Prairie View. After McNeese, you got a couple at home. PVU at 5 o'clock in Mississippi Valley. What about the Delta Devils playing Tennessee State tough and playing Lamar tough? We'll talk about it on our SWAC report. We approach the bottom of the hour. Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification here on the Braves Sports Network. McNair Radio Show here on this Monday night. Glad you can join us as the Braves a big win over Mississippi College. You know, I've been around this place 28 years, Coach, and I've often wondered in football, will we ever play Mississippi College? Like Delta State, you know, playing the in-state schools, and you see these games all over the country. Cincinnati played Ohio State. I mean, of course, Ohio State won the game, but these type of games are good for the state. It's good to play an in-state team, and you know, to play MC for the first time, it was a pleasure. Even though the Braves won big, but just to see those two teams line up, something that we might not see that again. But I'm glad we're able to play the Choctaws.
It's always good to play in the state rivals, Coach, in Mississippi College and those teams like that. You know, just to give the local communities a good chance to see everybody play. So it's always good to entertain the Mississippi school.
All right, so it's 28-0 at the half, 31-0 at one point in the game. You talked about McCullough. He missed a 42-yard field goal, and then you were able to get some points in that third quarter. It was 31-0, Coach. Just, McCullough set the school record for the most field goals made in school history. Talk about him and just doing all the kicking duties. You talked about it last week, at least as of last week. He did all the kicking duties. Will that continue going into McNeese?
Yeah, right now we're just trying to get everything pretty much sharpened up, Charles, going into the conference play. I think Corey is doing a great job of keeping his legs strong and doing the right things, not to overkick during the course of practice. And Greg Blue, he's going to be a great kicker too. I let him kick one off this past game against Mississippi College and kicked it pretty deep. So I'm glad to see him do that during the course of a game. You know, some kickers come on the field and get nervous their first kick in college football. So I think he handled the situation pretty well. Just seeing him go out there and kick the ball off for us through the course of the game. So right now, you know, Corey, until something else happens, he'll still be the remaining kicker for us.
So it was 31-0 at the end of the third quarter, and then Noah Johnson made it 38-0 with a 3-yard run, and then we added another touchdown as Duffy 26-yard touchdown reception. So we see Nico Duffy in the backfield. Talk about Nico Duffy as a receiver.
All those guys got pretty good hands, Charles. You know, we teach them to catch passes well. I think Coach Bruce has done a great job of teaching those guys to run the ball hard and have soft hands when time to catch the ball. So they pretty much is in our passing game as well, Charles. There are outlets and they run good routes and they there if the quarterbacks need them. So we call it the trouble drill. You know, when you get in trouble, find the back. So they got good hands, and I think they do a great job of catching. Nico Duffy do a great job of running the football and as well as catching the ball. He's good with the ball in his hand, so try to get it to him as much as we can, all the running backs.
Well, you talked about Jaron Russell, and he was at practice today. I was at practice today, and you know, as you talked about, it's good to see him back at it. But we were down to a couple of quarterbacks. Felix Harper didn't play on Saturday.
Yeah, he's nursing a hip, that Charles. I think he worked out today with the head trainer, Jaleesa, and I think he's coming around pretty good. I think he's getting a bit mobile to where he can participate a little bit in practice. We'll have him back this week.
All right, so you look at the fourth quarter, you look at Marsh. Talk about him as he had a number of carries in this drive with 10:50 left. It was Marsh, and of course Duffy running the football, which led to Duffy's touchdown.
Yeah, Marsh, he's mostly a special team guy for us, Charles. But he comes in and do the cleanup job for us. He's a hard runner. You know, he's going to fall forward on his tackle. You know, so he's done a great job of coming in and being the mop-up guy for us. You know, able to rush for 7 yards. I mean, that's a lot for him. You know, 10 carries there. I think that's the most he carried since he's been here. You know, he got kind of winded there in the fourth quarter. You know, we had to get him out and replace him. But, you know, after carrying the ball so many times, he's subject to get winded, Charles. So he did a great job for us coming in.
We're pitching a shutout, and I know we had the starters out there, Coach, and MC got a touchdown late as Smith Moore, who was probably the more athletic quarterback, to Rondell Cole for 10 yards with 2:43 left. That was the only score. We had some of our starters out there. I saw Darrell Henderson and others out there in that fourth quarter. I know yourself and Cedric Thornton wanted to pitch that shutout.
Yeah, of course. You know, anytime you get a chance to pitch a shutout on the D coordinator, that's what you want. And you know, it started off with a play on the sideline where we got them down there. We had a late hit out of bounds, which I thought was a bad penalty for us. One of the penalties that we talked about during the course of the week. We can't have those, so we marched the ball on down a little bit. And, you know, just getting guys to do their job. You know, Coach Thornton said, just do your job. And if everybody do their job on that touchdown play, it would be a touchdown. So we look at those things, and as a coaching staff, and we have to understand these guys, that they do their job and just do what they're coached. It wouldn't be as hard, Charles.
Final score 45-7, 35 minutes after the hour. Let's go back to the phone lines. Kermit joining us here on the Fred McNair Radio Show. Good evening, Kermit.
Hey, good evening, Doug. Good evening, Coach McNair.
Hey, Kevin, how you doing, man?
All right. Hey, Coach, one thing I like about you is Georgia Peters. You know, Coach, what I like about you is if I was standing on the college sideline there when it was 28-0, when it was 31-0, I guarantee you, Coach, they felt like it's 600 when they were standing over there. You know, I mean, they just weren't going to come back on the way you coach. But what I like about you is, Coach, you keep coaching when the game is 31-0. The game is 45-0. You keep coaching. You don't let them make those simple mistakes that good teams make, man. And I just love that about you, Coach. That you do those kind of things. And I think that's a great attitude that you have about that. And my question is, Coach, you know, when you got a dual threat quarterback like Noah, you know, I watched you play quarterback, you went all going, I watched your brother play quarterback. And Coach, you used to have bodies flying all around you playing quarterback. Could you do a tall back there. So is that a hard transition for a quarterback stand back there with those bodies flying all around you and not get happy feet?
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
There's a lot of pressure. I appreciate your comments,
Thank you,
Kermit. We really appreciate you, man, and coming in and tuning in. But the biggest thing is when you talk about the quarterback situation, where you have guys flying around, bodies at your feet, it's kind of tough. You get answers sometimes, but I think what Noah is doing is he's pressing himself a little bit, and that's what Coach White seemed to think as well. He's trying to do too much other than what he's coached to do, and just kind of set him down, get him in a groove, get him where he can complete some passes. And we're getting back to running too as well. So that's one of the things that we do in our offensive staff, making sure that we take care of the quarterbacks, man. And with Noah, Felix, and Jaron Russell and those guys bagging Noah up, we got to make sure those guys stay upright. I think the offensive line does a great job of keeping them that way. So, and the biggest thing is, at the end of the day, those guys are just one play away from going in. So we got to make sure those guys are ready as well. So during the course of practice, all those guys getting reps like they're going to play for the next ball game. So we practice it as they're going to start every week. So those guys are really working together. They're coming together as one group for one ultimate goal, and that's to win the ball game. So as long as we keep those guys doing what they're doing, making sure that they're okay, and just filling in, when they can, So at any point in time, we may just pull one and see what the other can do. Like Saturday night, I left Noah in the ball game because I felt that he needed to get some more work. I knew the chance of getting him hurt during the course of that time, but he needed some more work, I thought. So I just told him to leave him in until about 5 or 6 minutes to go in the ball game. So just understanding that part and the pressure that these guys are under every day and every weekend when they play the game. So I think they handled it pretty well, but it's always tough, man. It's always tough. And as a coaching staff, we're gonna coach to the 000 or to the final thing. Say bomb, the clock is beat down. So we're gonna continue to coach regardless if we're up by 60. So that's the way we coach, and that's the way we're gonna continue to coach. We appreciate your comments on that too, Cameron.
We appreciate you calling in, Kermit. And speaking of a quarterback, T. Adams, the freshman from Meridian, saw some action.
Yeah, he did, Charles. Now, like I said, he's coming along as well. He's going to be a guy to keep eyes on too as well. Hopefully we can finish this thing on out with all of them healthy. So that's what ultimate goal. Offensive line, we talk about it all the time. Making sure those guys taken care of up front.
So the Braves win by the final score of 45-7. We'll go inside the numbers. We'll hear from Nico Duffy coming up. Alcorn President Dr. Felicia M. Nave also will chime in, and we'll get to the SWAC report and a McNeese preview. A lot to cover here in the next 20 minutes. We'll get to it after this 1-minute timeout here on the Braves Sports Network. We are live here in Studio B at WPRL 91.7 and WPRL.org. Glad you can join us however way you may be listening on the radio, online, WPRL.org. We're on TuneIn Radio. Go to Life 91.7, WPRL, Spreaker.com. We've got you covered here on this Monday night. Coach, you talked about the offense and scoring some points. TJ Mayfield chimed in with a comment. Feels like Coach Radden, first-year offensive coordinator Elliott Radden, has made a seamless transition to that position. Talk a little bit about that transition for him.
The same thing I always say, Charles. I always try to promote within. Being the last year, I thought it was fitting that to move Elliott and name him as offensive coordinator. And I think that when you do that, you kind of watch how the guys look up to a coach when he's coaching. And he was a tight end coach last year. During the midst of a transition with Coach Stanchek, I saw fit that Elliott was offensive line coach when he came here. I thought that was a good fit for him. He knows football, and he got a good football IQ. So the transition wasn't hard there for him, and he fit right on in, Charles. And he got the guys' attention, and the guy responded very well. So anytime you see that when you're evaluating coaches during the course of practice, as which I do, evaluate these guys, and they know when I'm walking around from group to group what I'm doing. So this kind of helped me to say, okay, well, we don't have to go out and our new offensive coordinator or our defensive coordinator. I got the guys right here. You know, they know the system and they run it well. So, and you know, this coaching staff is we don't have an ego problem, Charles. None of the coaches. We grind, each and every one grind together. You know, so early morning, late nights, and that's what we expect to do to get the best about these kids, to teach these young men how to play football the proper way.
Braves with a big win over Mississippi College. You look at the final numbers: 324 yards rushing. Nico Duffy 138, Waller 71, Marsh 70, Bolton 22, Russell with 11 yards. Of course, T. Adams with 8, and Noah Johnson 4 rushes for just 4 yards. So 324 yards on the ground, and Noah Johnson 15 of 23 for 132 yards through the air. We were sacked 5 times against USM, and we kept the quarterback upright in this past game.
You know, that's our intention, Charles. You know, to keep them all guys upright so they don't feel like they pressured. And a lot of time, as a quarterback, you get hit a lot. That makes you answer too. You know, it makes you want to get rid of the ball a little bit quicker than you're supposed to. So I think the offensive line did a great job this week of keeping the quarterback upright. And you know, it's going to get better, you know, throughout the course of this year. And you know, we just got to be prepared for McNair State going down there to Lake Charles this weekend.
Defensively, coach, who stood out for you is Darrell Henderson with 7 tackles, Cole with 6, Myron Means with 5. Talk about those 3.
I tell you what, Charles, I'm very, very excited about Darrell, the way he came in during camp, and came in with a good attitude, haven't missed any practices. He's working hard every day. He's bringing those young guys along and trying to develop depth, and you know, did an outstanding job. You know, like I said, it's kind of tough to assimilate full speed cut when you run the triple option. So those guys handled the situation very well there. So I'm very pleased with what they did defensively. Quinterio Cole, he's only going to improve. He's a headhunter in the secondary. Does a great job of finding the ball. So Myron Means, he's a freshman, coming along pretty good. I think that Coach French is doing a great job with those young guys to plug them in and get them some playing time. So I think he did a great job when he came in to play.
Braves with a big win. Of course, a big game by the freshman from Tampa, Nico Duffy. Of course, Nico Duffy and Noah Johnson, both from the same hometown. And after the game, he talked about how much of an inspiration Noah Johnson has been since he's been here on campus.
He really just, you know, kept me focused, you know, motivating me, and just, you know, telling me to, you know, keep working hard, and you'll be starting in no time. So he really just motivated me, really.
Fred McNair, most of your predictions have been right. When I asked you about talking to Nico Duffy, you remember what you told me this morning?
Yeah.
He's not going to give you 2 words.
Mm-hmm.
He was terrific.
That's good, Charles. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Is he pretty soft-spoken?
He is, Charles. I mean, he's a great young man, a great individual, not only a great football player, but just a great individual. You don't hear anything out of it during the course of practice. You practice have to pull the teeth to get him to talk. So, but he's a great individual, Charlie. He's very quiet. He's a humble young man.
So the Braves with the win, and Coach, the big question, we had a lot of DMPs going into this game. You talked about Felix Harper, Anderson, Anthony, of course, some guys went down, Bolton. Just talk a little bit about the status of some of these DMPs. Will they be ready to go come Saturday at McNair?
Well, I'm going to let Jaleesa work her magic wand on those guys, Charles. And if they're ready for Saturday, they'll be ready. But right now, I don't anticipate them being ready for Saturday. So as we go playing for this week, we'll prepare the other young men to get ready to play. So Jaleesa done an outstanding job of getting these guys back to the playing surface. So I don't want to rush her magic wand and use it all up, Charles. So I'm going to let her take her time with those young men for this game at least. You know, we got SWAC play coming up in 2 weeks, so not looking ahead, but I think that getting those guys prepared for Prairie View in 2 weeks is a key. Is probably going to be that timeline for them. But we're going to just try to make what we got work against McNair State. I think we got a good game plan. going in. Let's go out and execute it the way it should be.
So guys like Bonds, Trey Turner, some of the guys that went down, most likely will probably sit out this week, knowing that you got Prairie View Valley coming up.
That's a possibility, Charles. But if we can see that we can squeeze a few plays out of those guys, we will, just to get them back into the groove of things, of the plan wise. But hopefully, those guys be 100% by the end of the week, and we'll know from there and be some kind of a game time situation for them.
You talked about our quarterback that went down, Jaron Russell, and I was looking at the monitor, and did he really want to stay in the game? Because it looked like, the body language said he really didn't know what day it was, what time it was. Just the way it looked, obviously he's okay, so that's good, but just that was a scary situation. And someone asked me after the game, is there a slide drill in which he's taught to slide? I'm sure Pat White has probably told him that a few times.
Jaron, one of those guys, you think he's invincible, Charles. You think he can't be hit. But Saturday night, he figured out he can be hit very, very hard. But
it looked scary.
It was scary. I watched it on film Sunday morning, and it was a tough hit. It was a tough hit. It was a good lick. But I think he said most of the impact was on his shoulder. So just looking at his head when he got hit, just kind of scared me. So it's just tough football, man. You got to learn how to slide. They know how to slide, Charlie. They know how to baseball slide. So it's something that he wanted to do. He thought he was tough. But he's healthy and nothing's wrong. So good to have him back.
All right, we'll take a time out here. We'll be right back. We'll hear from Alcorn President Knight. We'll be on the air at 5:30 from Lake Charles, the Braves and the Cowboys of McNair. And we will hear from David Berry of the American Press newspaper in Lake Charles. He covers McNair. We'll also hear from Nico Duffy. And at the half, part 2 of our interview with Alcorn President, Dr. Felicia Nade. We talked with her a couple of days ago, Coach McNair. She talks about athletics and football and the excitement of what that means in terms of enrollment and increased energy for Alcorn State University.
As we all know, athletic programs are kind of like the front porch into any institution. And when people see the sports program, particularly football program, winning, then they make a natural assumption that there's something great and grand going on in that institution. They want to be a part of that. And so winning in our football program has been a positive contributor to continuing to be able to recruit the talent that we need in our classrooms as well as on the field. I like winning. I'm very competitive. Once upon a time, I played sports. And so being able to come into a program that is already winning, it is a nice addition, or a punctuation mark, I guess you could say, on what to expect in the athletic program. And it gives you something to build on as we look at the athletic program as a whole, that we have that solid cornerstone that will help us grow. And when I was at Alcorn in 92, 96, we were winning then too. So all I know about Alcorn football is winning. And so I try not to pressure the coach too much. I try not to push at the athletic director too much. But I've shared my expectations that we continue to win with our students on the field as well as off the field, making sure that they're being developed into leaders and young men of character who will go on to do great things. But they have my full support. They know that. I try to get around there to look at them, whether they know I'm looking or not. I get down there on the sideline just to cheer them on. But we're very and exceptionally proud of our student athletes. We're proud of our coaches. They're doing an exceptional job.
That's Alcorn President, Dr. Felicia M. Nave, and Coach McNair. I'm sure you've had many a conversation with Dr. Nave, and she talked about her support for athletics and Alcorn football.
Yeah, she is, Charles. She's very, very supportive about the athletics and about what we're doing as far as the athletic programs overall as a picture. But the biggest thing is she's very supportive of what we're doing with the young men, trying to mold them into young students and athletes as well. I think it's very, very natural that as a coach you want the best for these young men, not only on the football field but off the football field as well in the classroom. So as coaches, we always try to provide them with everything they need, every opportunity they can take advantage of to to get what they need to be successful to graduate from this university.
And, of course, we'll be talking with her on Saturday at McNeese, talking about her academic agenda. We'll take a break here. We'll dive into the Cowboys of McNeese from Lake Charles. They used to be one of the top FCS programs in this country. You talk about McNeese, Youngstown State, Stephen F. Austin, McNeese, and of course Broderick Fobbs was an assistant coach at McNeese. I think his name came up when the job was open a few years back. Of course, he stayed at Grambling. So they've got a young head coach, and we'll talk about the Cowboys coming up after this 1 minute timeout, our final timeout here on the Fred McNair Radio Show. We'll be back after this 1 minute break. You know, a proud sponsor of Alcorn State University Athletics and Magnolia Bluffs Natchez. All new members who sign up for their Players Club get $10 in free play. Must be 21 or older to participate. All you can eat seafood buffet with crab legs, $26.99 Friday and Saturday night. Bring your game day ticket and receive 25% off only at Magnolia Bluffs Casino Hotel. It's not what you play, it's who you play with. Must be 21 or older. And Fred McNair, you got to be 21 or older for this one. This is going to be a head knocker, I think, as we turn our attention to McNeese. I'm always, I just love playing up, and I know the results aren't what we expect, but I also, and a lot of people in the sports talk show landscape, the SWAC landscape, talk about these type of games, FCS versus FCS, and this is what we have here. Of course, McNeese was here a couple of years ago, returning the game as we go to Lake Charles. This team beat Southern University 34-28, and they lost to Oklahoma State 56-14. Wasn't a good outing there, but you look at this team, pretty balanced attack, led by Cody Ogeron, who was 11 of 22 for 170 yards, had 2 picks. He almost had 100 yards rushing last week against Oklahoma State. So he's going to be the signal caller, and he's going to be the guy we have to deal with come Saturday.
Yeah, he's a kind of a dual threat, Charles. He's tough, you know. That's Coach Ogeron's son down at LSU. That's him.
That is okay. I was wondering that.
He's a tough cat. He throw the ball well, and he loves to run it. So I think the defense got a work cut out for it this week, trying to prepare for him. Not only that, Justin Pratt, the running back as well, Charles. He's tough as well. He got a good receiver in Trevor. They like to throw the ball to him. He's a speedy guy, but hopefully we can bottle those guys up, and defense do a good job of containing those guys.
You're talking about Trevor McGee, the junior from Lafayette.
That is the one.
5 receptions for 69 yards. DeAndre Hicks had 3 receptions last week. So offensively, it seems like they're trying to be balanced here.
Yeah, they are, Charles. They mix it around a little bit, what they do, just watching them on film and some of the stuff that they do. They're gonna run the ball, they're gonna throw it around. So we just gotta be prepared for it.
Defensively, Coach, we got about a minute and a half left. They had 3 sacks versus Southern University. They only had 1 sack against Oklahoma State. They've given up 5 TD passes of 40 yards or more. So it could be safe to say we might be able to try to stretch the field a little bit.
Well, just looking at them and seeing what they've been doing on defense and playing coverage-wise, it could be a possibility that, Charles. Chris Livens, he's the leading sack for the team. So we just got to make sure we know where he's at. But all those guys work really hard over there, Charles. Cody Roscoe, he's a defensive lineman that's going to work hard. Undersized guy, but he plays extremely hard. So we just got to be able to account for those guys and make sure we just execute the biggest thing, Charles. We can't turn the ball over. We got to take care of the football. And by that same token on defense, we got to create turnovers. So if we do those things and play special teams well, I think we'll be okay. But it's going to be a good game down there in Lake Charles this weekend coming, Charles. So we got to have our A game. Guys got to prepare this week to play a good football game. Coach Sterling Gilbert, he done a great job. He been around. He coached up on the Charlie Strong down in South Florida. So he's been around for a while. So Alcorn Brave got to come with their game this week, Charles. It's going to be a good battle, and it's going to be a good outing, be a good audition for us.
Coach, we appreciate it, and we'll talk to you on Saturday as we get ready for McNeese.
All right, thank you, Charles. Go Braves.
That'll do it for the Fred McNair Radio Show. I'm Charles Edmond, our producer Jamario Brooks, with head football coach Fred McNair.